It will take over command and control of the rocket, but the ALS will check, make sure there's no holds coming from the ground up until T-minus 2 seconds.
Go for ALS.
Of mission control as we now approach the final few seconds of this. The bottom line, this is an uncrewed mission. NASA's return to the moon, an orbital mission around the moon for 26 days. If it all goes well, then humans will be on the next flight, the test flight around the moon, and then landing on the moon. Let's listen to mission control.
10.
Hydrogen burn-off igniters initiated. 7, 6, 5. Core stage engine start. 3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
Engines on the core stage and 2 solid rocket boosters now propelling the vehicle at 128 miles per hour. Hearing good control on the roll from teams at Mission Control Houston. All good calls so far. Now 30 seconds into the flight of Artemis 1. First milestone will be for the vehicle to pass through max Q at about 1 minute and 9 seconds into launch. This is the greatest period of atmospheric force on the rocket. Now traveling 607 miles per hour. You're looking at 8.8 million pounds of maximum thrust. Quiet here in the loops of Mission Control. The 4 core stage engines are throttling down ahead of passing through max Q. Seconds into the flight, traveling at 1,420 miles per hour. The 4 core stage engines are back at maximum thrust. The next major milestone will be for the solid rocket boosters to cut off and jettison at about 2 minutes and 11 seconds into the flight, so about 30 seconds from now. Again, quiet here in Mission Control Houston as teams continue monitoring the flight of Artemis 1. We're now 16 miles downrange from the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center, traveling over 2,800 miles per hour. Standing by for solid rocket booster jettison and shortly thereafter. Confirmation that the solid rocket boosters have separated these 177-foot boosters. Now the core stage continues to power the flight of Orion, all 4 RS-25 engines firing, traveling over 3,400 miles per hour, 46 miles downrange. 2 minutes and 36 seconds into the flight. Hearing nominal calls here in Mission Control Houston. We've still got 4 good engines on the core stage. Next up, we'll be looking for the service module fairing to separate. This is 3 15 by 15 foot fairing panels, providing structural support, protecting the service module. Those will separate at about 3 minutes and 11 seconds into flight, and very shortly thereafter will be followed by the launch abort system separation. Just over 3 minutes into the flight of Artemis 1, now traveling over 4,060 miles per hour, 83 miles downrange. We just had confirmation that the service module fairing has separated.
And so far, this is going absolutely perfectly as Artemis lifts off. This is, of course, their 3rd attempt to lift off. They tried to go in August, but they had a problem with a fuel leak. Then they had first it was a sensor problem, then a fuel leak in August. Then we had 2 hurricanes that rolled through. So this is now the 4th, you might say, the 4th actual scheduled time that they're actually lifting off, and it went off absolutely perfectly today as they travel at 17,000 miles per hour, eventually putting themselves into an orbit around the Earth. And then you will see Orion take off for what they call translunar injection on its way to the moon and this 26-day orbital mission around the moon. NBC's Hello. How are you?
Hey, Tom. Well, wow, what an incredible moment here to be out here with you. Lit up the night sky. There was applause here. And I can tell you, we were both here about 6 weeks ago for the Falcon 9 liftoff. This is 5 times more powerful, and you can absolutely feel it. So Falcon 9 can generate 1.7 million pounds of thrust. This SLS, 8.8 million pounds, and it just takes you aback. It is just such a sight to see the sounds that you hear, and just really the people here to get a chance to be a part of it. You know, driving here to the space complex, you see people lining the streets just for that chance to be able to catch history.
Yeah,
today.
Absolutely. NBC's Lindsay Reiser, sorry about that. It also took my my momentary
your breath away.
brain glitch as you watch this phenomenal rocket taking off. You know, I had been here for years of shuttle missions, for SpaceX missions. This felt bigger. Car alarms were going off here, and the plume, if you will, the rocket plume, the orange fire underneath it, bigger than anything we've ever seen before. And they say, in fact, this is the most powerful rocket ever built by NASA.
The experience is bigger. The anticipation is bigger. This is really symbolic of a new era in space exploration. When we think about the things that we can do moving forward, getting a new generation excited about all this, you see parents bringing their kids to see this, witness history today. And right now, Tom, even as we're watching now, we can still see that bright light in the sky as Orion continues its trajectory. Has the core stage dropped yet?
No, we expect that. The main engine cutoff will be, we believe, at about 8 minutes and 30 seconds or so into this flight. And that will be a key indicator. We should keep listening to Mission Control as we go here. But so far, this is going absolutely perfectly. On a beautiful, clear night here, which we can see the moon perfectly clearly this morning, it is exactly as NASA had hoped. Now, we should make the point. Each one of these launches cost the country $4 billion. It's an awful lot of money to spend to go back to the moon. The issue, of course, is it worth it? In the view of NASA, it is worth it because it's setting the stage to go on to Mars.
Right. This unmanned mission is a fact-finding mission. They're going to be doing a ton of science experiments here. There's mannequins on board wearing radiation vests. There are sensors testing vibration and acceleration, eventually to be able to outfit the Orion space capsule with humans and bring the first female and the first person of color to the moon. Eventually, Tom, to colonize the moon and eventually to go to Mars. And of course, you ask some space geeks, some have their doubts about how lofty those goals are, but this is absolutely an incredible step in the right direction.
Last time humans were on the moon, 1972, December 1972. So nearly 50 years ago, next month. And this will now be the first time that humans have eventually will go back to orbit the moon on the next mission in 2024, and then landing on the moon in 2024 or 25, best case scenario. I think it could be actually later than that. But this is a critical test flight because they're testing not only the Artemis rocket stack, they're testing Orion to see how it performs orbiting the moon. And as you suggested, the mannequins on board are going to be essentially giving real data to the engineers to know exactly what the G-forces will be, the radiation will